The cry in the dark. The cargo ship Silver Dawn moved slowly through the empty black of space. Her engines hummed softly, the only sound in the silence. Captain Ryan Cole sat in the command chair, sipping cold coffee and watching the endless stars drift past the window. It was supposed to be a simple run. Pick up minerals from the asteroid belt, deliver them to the Mars colony, and head back. No drama. No danger, but space never stayed quiet for long. The first sign of trouble was a faint beep from the long-range scanner. A red dot blinked on the screen, far off the ship's normal route. The dot pulsed weakly, almost fading, then came back. Ryan leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "What's that?" He asked. Mara, his second in command, tapped on the console. "Looks like a distress signal," she said. "Weak, real weak. Could be old, could be a trap." Ryan's eyes narrowed. In this part of space, pirates often used fake signals to lure ships close. But something about the slow, uneven pulse of this one was different. It wasn't sharp or coded like a pirate beacon. It almost felt desperate. "Put it through the translator," Ryan said. The ship's AI word quietly, pulling the signal apart, trying to make sense of it. Static filled the cabin, sharp and loud, like wind in an old radio. Then, under the static, a voice dotted. Was small, shaky. "Please, save my mother." The words were simple, but they made the air feel heavier. Ryan froze. Mara's eyes widened. Neither spoke for a moment. "Play that again," Ryan said. The AI obeyed. The same fragile voice repeated, "Please, save my mother." This time, Ryan heard something else in it, a catch in the throat, the kind you get when you've been crying for too long. "Is that human?" Mara asked quietly. The AI's reply came at once. "No. Vocal structure, non-human. Origin, unknown." Ryan's stomach tightened. An alien child. Out here, alone, and asking for help. The Silver Dawn's crew gathered in the mess hall a few minutes later. 4 faces stared at Ryan as he explained the signal. They didn't look happy. "Captain," said Varen, the ship's engineer, "we can't go chasing after random calls. What if it's pirates using a kid's voice to trick us? Or worse," added Mara, "it could be an alien species that doesn't like humans. You know the treaties. No contact unless cleared by Central Command." Ryan knew all that. He also knew something else. When someone cried for help, humans didn't just walk away. Not in his book. He brought up the scanner display. The source of the signal was a derelict ship drifting near the edge of the Karos Nebula. That nebula was a death trap. Gravity waves, unstable currents, and electrical storms that could fry a ship's systems in minutes. "Signals coming from here," he said, pointing at the blinking dot. "If we go in, we have to be fast. The nebula's pull will drag that ship in within an hour." "Or drag us in," Varen muttered. Ryan's jaw tightened. "If there's a kid in there, we don't have an hour to debate." Minutes later, the Silver Dawn changed course. The hum of the engines deepened as the ship pushed into higher speed. The crew worked in tense silence, each secretly hoping this was all just a false alarm. But Ryan could still hear the child's voice in his head, fragile and afraid. As they approached the nebula, the stars around them began to fade behind a swirling wall of red and gold gas. Lightning flashed inside the clouds, bright and silent, like the sky was tearing itself apart. The derelict ship appeared on the scanners again. Small, broken, barely holding together. "She's in bad shape," Mara said. "No power except for a weak emergency beacon. Atmosphere's leaking. Life signs 1, maybe 2, very faint." The Silver Dawn's hull shuddered as a gravity wave rolled past. The ship's alarms beeped in warning. Ryan gripped the arm of his chair, Hold her steady. The derelict loomed ahead, its hull torn open in several places, jagged metal pointing out like broken bones. Faint lights flickered from deep inside. It looked like a ghost drifting through fire. Docking will be risky, Mara warned. Her docking clamps are damaged. We'll have to use the mag grapples. Do it, Ryan ordered. The Silver Dawn crept closer, metal arms extending to latch onto the derelict's frame. There was a hollow clang as they connected. The two ships hung together in the swirling storm of the nebula. Ryan stood, fastening his helmet. Mara, you're with me. Faring, keep the engines hot. If this place starts to collapse, we're leaving. Fast. The airlock hissed open, revealing the dark, twisted corridor of the alien ship. The smell hit first, burnt metal and something sharp, like ozone after lightning. The walls were scorched, the floor littered with shattered panels. Every step echoed too loud in the stillness. Somewhere, far down the corridor, there was a sound, faint, almost too soft to hear. It was crying. Ryan and Mara exchanged a glance. They moved toward it slowly, weapons ready, flashlights sweeping over the wreckage. The crying grew louder, then stopped suddenly. Mara, Ryan whispered. Up. Ahead, in the flicker of their lights, something moved, small, quick, and it was gone. Ryan's heart was pounding. Whoever had sent that signal was here, and they were not alone in this wreck, because the shadows were moving. The derelict ship, the corridor, was too quiet. Not the kind of quiet that felt safe. This was the kind that made your skin crawl. Like something was holding its breath in the dark, listening. Captain Ryan Cole stepped forward, boots crunching on shattered glass from a blown display panel. Mara followed close, her flashlight beam cutting thin lines of light through the dust floating in the air. The smell of scorched wires was so sharp, it stung his nose even through the jaw. Helmet filter. The child's cry from earlier echoed in Ryan's memory. He wanted to call out, to tell them they weren't alone, but instinct stopped him. This wasn't the place to make noise. They passed through a door that looked like it had been clawed open from the inside. The edges of the metal curled outward, melted in strange patterns. Ryan crouched and touched it. The surface was cold. Now, but the shape was wrong for any human tool. Something tore through here, Mara said softly. Not an explosion. Not a cutter. Something alive. Ryan straightened, his voice low. Then we move faster. Every so often, the derelict shivered, groaning like it hated being touched. The nebula outside was tugging at it, dragging it toward its glowing heart. Lightning from the storm outside flashed through cracks in the hull, giving Ryan and Mara quick, sharp glimpses of ruined hallways, collapsed rooms, and shadows that didn't seem to match the shapes of the wreckage. In one hallway, they found claw marks along the wall, deep, uneven, as if made in panic. The life sign scanner beeped. Mara glanced down. 1. No, 2 readings, faint, moving. They rounded a corner and stopped. Something stood in the middle of the corridor, motionless, small, thin. The flashlight caught pale skin that shimmered faintly, like moonlight on water. Big eyes blinked at them. Not human eyes, but not hostile either. They looked scared. It was a child. For a moment, no one moved. Ryan kept his hands away from his weapon. He took a slow step forward, speaking softly. We're here to help. The child tilted their head, like they were trying to understand. Then their lips moved, and a thin, trembling voice came out. Mother, trapped. Please. Before Ryan could answer, a deep metallic crash echoed from somewhere ahead. The child flinched violently, eyes wide with fear. They darted into a side passage, moving fast, impossibly fast. Wait. Ryan called, but the sound of his voice seemed to make the noise ahead grow louder. Like whatever had made it now knew they were here. The ship groaned again, harder this time. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere far away, the sound of something heavy scraping against metal set Ryan's teeth on edge. Mara's voice was tight. "We're not alone in here." They followed the child's path into a section of the ship that looked less damaged, but that somehow felt worse. The lights here flickered weakly, just enough to throw strange shapes on the walls. A trail of small footprints, glowing faintly blue, led deeper in. Ryan crouched to touch one. It was warm. The trail ended at a massive door, alien symbols. Running along its surface, faintly lit from within. From behind, it came a low, rhythmic sound, like breathing. But it wasn't calm breathing. It was slow, heavy, and wet, like each inhale dragged through a throat filled with liquid. The child stood by the door, pressing tiny hands to it. Their eyes met Ryan's again. "Please, hurry." And then the breathing stopped. The silence was worse than the sound, because silence meant it had heard them. Asterisk. The alien child, the door loomed over them like a wall of stone. Alien symbols crawling across its surface like frozen rivers of light. Captain Ryan Cole stood still, studying it. The faint glow wasn't steady. It pulsed slowly, in sync with something behind it. A heartbeat. The child didn't move. They pressed their forehead against the cold surface, whispering sounds Ryan couldn't understand. The life sign scanner in Mara's hand gave off a weak, unsteady beep. One life. Trapped. Fading. Ryan stepped closer, crouching so his visor was level with the child's eyes. "Your mother?" he asked gently. The child's eyes were wide, shining with a soft silver hue. "She is hurt. The translator, eh?" I whispered through Ryan's earpiece. "She cannot breathe." "You can open this?" Ryan glanced at the lock. Panel beside the door. It wasn't a human mechanism. No keypad, no manual override. Instead, there was a smooth oval plate, glowing faintly. He'd seen tech like this before in briefing files. A biolock. It would only open for the right. Alien's hand, blood, or DNA, if the ship's crew was dead. "She is the last one?" Ryan asked quietly. The child nodded, trembling. Mara's voice was low but sharp. "Captain, this is alien tech. If we mess with it, we could trigger a security purge. Automatic systems, maybe self-destruct." Ryan's eyes didn't leave the child. "If we wait, she dies." The ship groaned again, a shudder that ran through the floor into his boots. From far away came that same scraping sound they'd heard before. Metal on metal, closer this time. Ryan made a decision. "I'll get her out." He dropped his pack and pulled out a set of human tools, crude compared to the alien systems, but adaptable. Humans had a way of making things work that the galaxy didn't expect. Ryan knew the risk. Alien circuits often reacted badly to being forced. But humans weren't famous for following the manual as he worked. The child stood next to him, glancing nervously down the dark corridor. "Something is here," they whispered. Ryan didn't look up. "Something other than us?" The child's voice shook. "Not from my ship. It came after. It smells death." Mara raised her weapon. "Captain," a sudden thud rattled the door. The sound wasn't from Ryan's tools. It came from inside the sealed chamber. The child gasped and pressed closer to the door. "Mother!" Another thud, then a deep, ragged cough from inside, followed by a weak voice speaking in the alien tongue. The translator struggled to catch the words. "Hurry, it is coming." Ryan's fingers moved faster, prying open a panel and exposing shimmering, liquid-like circuits. They pulsed as if alive, each touch sending a faint vibration up his arm. Sweat trickled under his helmet. He'd seen alien systems fry human nervous systems before, One wrong connection, and the surge could cook his brain. The scraping in the corridor came again, louder, faster. This time, Ryan could see shapes moving in the flicker of damage. Lights, long, thin limbs dragging along the floor, claws sparking against metal. The smell of burned ozone grew thicker, mixed with something far worse. A sweet, rotten scent that made his stomach twist. Mara's weapon light caught a glimpse of it, and Ryan wished she hadn't. The thing was all wrong. It had no face, only a twisted mass of tendrils that moved like they were tasting the air. Its body was wrapped in scraps of alien uniforms. As if it had collected trophies from the dead, the child whimpered. The creature tilted its head at the sound. And then it started crawling faster. Captain. Mara barked. The door's panel sparked. Ryan slammed his hand onto the alien plate, letting the translator AI flood the circuits with random code bursts. The system hissed, the alien symbols flickering wildly. A sharp hiss of steam escaped from the edges of the door. With a grinding screech, it slid open. Inside, the chamber was lit only by a weak medical field. The alien mother lay on the floor, half buried under a collapsed support beam. Her skin, pale like the child's, was dull and cracked. She struggled to lift her head, her gaze locking on Ryan, a human, for the first time. Her lips moved, and the translator whispered the words into Ryan's ear. You are not one of us, but you came. Ryan knelt, hands already moving. To shift the beam. Yeah, I came. Behind him, the creature let out a wet, rattling hiss. The sound of claws hitting metal filled the air. The child ran to their mother's side, gripping her hand. Ryan looked over his shoulder, eyes narrowing. The thing was almost at the door. Mara stood in its path, weapon charged, the air between them trembling with tension. Captain, she said without looking away. Get them out. I'll hold it. Ryan's jaw tightened. No one gets left behind. And then the corridor exploded into chaos. Asterisk, the mother's prison. The creature blocked the only way out. Its limbs bent at strange angles, scraping the walls as it moved. The tendrils where its face should have been writhed in slow, hungry waves. Each movement made a sound like wet ropes sliding over glass. Mara didn't blink. She stood between it and the chamber, her weapon aimed at its center mass. The weapon's power cell hummed, heat building against her gloves. Captain, she said through clenched teeth, get them out. Ryan's mind ran hot. The alien mother's breathing was shallow. Her chest rose and fell in weak, uneven bursts. The child clung to her hand, their eyes darting from Ryan to the shadow in the hall. The collapsed beam pinning her leg was thick, alien alloy, stronger than human steel. Ryan hooked both hands under it and heaved. It didn't budge. The creature hissed, a sound that vibrated in Ryan's bones. It stepped forward, claws clicking on the floor. The lights above them flickered, then died completely. Darkness swallowed. The corridor. Ryan's visor switched to low light mode, bathing the scene in eerie green. The creature was gone from the doorway, not retreating, moving, fast. Mara, left. Ryan barked. A blur lunged from the shadows. Mara fired. The blast lit up the corridor for a heartbeat, the energy bolt slamming into the thing's shoulder. It screeched, an awful mix of animal rage and metallic distortion, before vanishing into the ceiling crawl space. Ryan's gut told him they had seconds. He yanked open his toolkit, pulling out a thermal cutter, a tool designed for breaking. Apart asteroid debris, not alien alloys. It roared to life, a blinding white arc slicing into the beam. The heat warped the air, the metal glowing red. The alien mother made a faint sound of pain as the beam shifted, the vibration running through her leg. Ryan gritted his teeth. Almost there. Above, the ceiling creaked. The thing was moving. Above them, the sound of claws clicking across the metal skin of the ship. The child whimpered and covered their ears. Mara's voice was sharp, cutting through the tension. "Captain, it's circling. Hunting." Ryan pushed the cutter harder. The beam gave a loud crack, metal fibers snapping. With one final shove, it shifted enough for him to drag the mother free. She gasped sharply, clutching the child to her chest. "Can you walk?" Ryan asked. The translator whispered, "Yes, but slow." Ryan glanced at the corridor. Not an option. And the ceiling exploded. The creature dropped from above, hitting the floor with a thud that made the deck plates rattle. It was bigger. Up close, taller than any human, its limbs too long, its movements jerky like a puppet being yanked by invisible strings. Mara fired again. The shot punched a smoking hole into its side, but it didn't stop. It kept coming. Ryan stepped between it and the mother, dropping the cutter and pulling out a shaped charge from his belt. Not a weapon, a mining tool. But in the wrong hands, or the right ones, it could turn into an improvised bomb. He slapped it onto the corridor wall. "Mara, push it this way." Mara understood instantly. She stepped sideways, forcing the creature to follow her arc. It slashed out, a claw grazing her arm, sparks flying as it scraped her armor. "Now!" Ryan shouted. Mara dove back into the chamber. Ryan hit the detonator. The explosion was deafening in the enclosed space, the shockwave hurling the creature against the far wall. Metal shards rained down. The corridor filled with smoke and drifting debris. The thing twitched once, then lay still. Ryan didn't trust it to stay that way. "Move!" They poured into the corridor, the alien mother leaning heavily on Ryan, while the child stayed glued to her side. The smoke burned Ryan's throat, and the silver dawn's coms were crackling with Varen's voice. "Captain, the nebula's pulling both ships in. You've got maybe 4 minutes before we lose docking integrity. 4 minutes. And a dead alien ship between them and safety." They pushed forward, stepping over collapsed beams and sparking cables. Behind them, the sound came again, faint, but unmistakable. The thing was moving. Slowly, Ryan's heart slammed against his ribs. "It's not dead." The child's voice was small but certain. "It does not die. It only waits." The corridor ahead groaned, panels tearing from the ceiling as the nebula's pull increased. Somewhere deep in the ship, bulkheads were giving way. Time was running out. They reached a narrow cross-section. One side led toward the docking arm, the other toward a secondary cargo bay. The scanner flashed red. 2 heat signatures ahead in the docking route. Ryan frowned. 2? Mara checked her own display. "Yeah, and neither's us." In the haze of smoke ahead, shapes moved, one large, one small. For a heartbeat, Ryan thought there were 2 more survivors. Until the small one's tendrils shifted exactly like the creature's dot, it had friends. Asterisk, the impossible rescue the corridor was too narrow for a fight. Ryan Cole knew at the moment the 2 shapes stepped into view through the haze. The large one crouched low, tendrils dragging across the deck. The smaller one twitching unnaturally, moving like a broken puppet. Their bodies blocked the route to the docking arm completely. Behind him, the alien mother and her child stood against the wall, breathing hard, too weak to run. Mara's weapon hummed as she raised it. 2 of them, she said, her voice tight. 3, Ryan corrected. His visor display had just picked up a faint signature above them. Ceiling crawl space. The creatures weren't hunting by chance. They were surrounding them. A low, rattling hiss filled the air. The larger one tilted its head toward Ryan, tendrils spreading like it was tasting his fear. The smaller one crept sideways, blocking the last angle of escape. Varen's voice crackled through combs. "Captain, we're at breaking point." "Nebula." Drag is off the charts. If you're not aboard in 3 minutes, the Silver Dawn will be scrap. Ryan's reply was calm, but his hands were already moving. Copy. Keep the engines screaming hot. He scanned the corridor, collapsed panels, sparking wires dangling from the ceiling, alien piping running along the walls, glowing faintly with whatever fluid powered this ship's systems. No alien would dare rupture those. It would flood. A corridor with corrosive vapor in seconds. No. Alien Ryan's mind clicked into that reckless human place where rules and survival manuals didn't matter. He pulled a multi-tool from his belt and jabbed it into the glowing pipe. A sharp hiss filled the corridor as vapor began to leak, curling in the air like pale smoke. The smell was harsh, acidic. The larger creature hesitated, tendrils twitching in uncertainty. Mara shot him a quick glance. You're insane. Humans call it improvising. Ryan muttered. The vapor was spreading, stinging the back of Ryan's throat, even through the helmet filter. He counted 3 seconds in his head, enough for it to thicken into a white wall between them and the creatures. Now! He barked. Mara opened fire blindly through the vapor. The corridor lit up with flashes as bolts tore through the haze. Ryan grabbed the alien mother's arm, pulling her and the child forward into the chaos. The larger creature lunged through the fog, but Ryan dropped low, sliding under its strike and jamming a shock baton into its side. The crack of electricity made the thing spasm violently. Smashing into the wall, they burst through the fog into a junction room, only to find it worse. The floor here had partially collapsed, leaving a jagged gap into the lower deck. Alien cargo crates hung by twisted straps above the drop. Through the floor panels, Ryan could see the ship's inner hull flexing under the nebula's pull. The mother stumbled. Ryan caught her before she fell into the gap. The child clung to her, whispering words Ryan didn't understand, but didn't need to. Pure fear sounded the same in every language. Behind them, the smaller creature scuttled into the room, moving in bursts, darting, pausing, twitching its head. The vapor from the corridor was already spilling in, giving it cover. Ryan spotted a maintenance ladder leading to the upper deck. He pointed. Mara, get them up. She didn't argue. She slung the child over her shoulder and half pushed, half pulled the mother toward the ladder. Ryan stayed behind, eyes on the shadows. The larger creature crawled into the room, its body folding and twisting in ways no living thing should. Its claws clicked on the deck, each sound sharp as a knife scrape. Ryan's cum crackled again. 2 minutes, Captain. He needed a distraction, something big. His eyes fell on one of the hanging cargo crates. It swayed slightly in the shifting gravity, straps fraying. If he could drop it at the right moment. He stepped backward toward the ladder, pulling his pistol and firing at the ceiling struts holding the crate. Sparks flew. One strap snapped, the crate tilting violently. The larger creature froze for half a second, tendrils curling in confusion. Ryan fired again. The second strap tore loose. The crate fell. It hit the deck with a thunderous crash, smashing through the weakened floor into the lower level. The impact sent a shockwave through the room, knocking the smaller creature into a wall. The larger one staggered, claws scraping to find balance. Ryan didn't wait. He climbed the ladder in 3 bounds, Mara reaching down to grab his arm and haul him up the last step. They ran. The sound of claws followed. The creatures were climbing after them. The docking arm was just ahead now, the Silver Dawn visible through the hatch's viewport. Engines flaring bright against the swirling red of the nebula. Varen's voice was in Ryan's ear again. 90 seconds. The docking corridor shuddered as the nebula's pull increased. Panels buckled. Somewhere deep in the alien ship, something massive tore free. Ryan could hear it echoing through the hull. They crossed into the Silver Dawn, and Mara slammed the airlock shut. The hiss of the seals was the best sound Ryan had heard all day. Then boom! The docking corridor jolted violently. Something was hitting it from the alien ship's side. Ryan knew without looking that it was them. The creatures. The child pressed their face into their mother's side, trembling. The mother's gaze met Ryan's, and even without the translator, he understood the silent message. You risked everything, but it wasn't over yet, because the mag grapples holding the silver, dawn to the alien ship, were starting to tear free. And if they detached wrong, the whole freighter could be ripped apart. Asterisk the escape. The silver dawn shook like it was caught in the fist of a giant. Ryan Cole slammed into the wall of the airlock as the ship twisted under the nebula's pull. Warning lights strobed red across the corridor, and the low growl of the engines rose to a scream. Mara, secure them. Ryan shouted. Mara grabbed the alien mother and child, pulling them toward the nearest crash seats in the medbay. The child clung to her without hesitation, their silver eyes wide with terror. The mother's breathing was shallow, but steadier now, though every lurch of the ship made her wince. Varen's voice came through comms, loud and panicked. Captain, the mag grapples are tearing loose. If they snap wrong, they'll rip our hull open. Can you disengage from the bridge? Ryan asked, moving toward the ladder. Negative. One's jammed, mechanical fault. You'll have to cut it loose by hand. Ryan's boots hit the deck hard as he ran toward the cargo bay where the grapple controls were located. The ship groaned again, metal protesting under forces it wasn't built to handle. He reached the bay just in time to hear thud. 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 Something was climbing up the docking arm from the alien ship. Through the viewport, he caught sight of it, the larger creature. Its claws dug into the arm's plating, tendrils whipping in the thin air. Even with the vacuum between ships, it was moving like it could smell him through the metal. Ryan yanked open the manual release panel for the mag grapple. The controls were simple. A heavy lever that would retract the arms and let the ships drift apart. Except it didn't move. The jam Varen had mentioned was real. The creature was halfway across the docking arm now. Its limbs folded unnaturally, letting it crawl faster, like a spider chasing prey. Ryan's pulse spiked. Varen, I'm locked out. Grapples fused. You'll have to go outside, Varen replied grimly. Ryan grabbed a tether line and clipped it to his belt. He didn't bother with the standard magnetic boots. They were too slow. He popped the outer hatch, and the void swallowed him instantly, his suit sealing against the chill. The nebula was a swirling inferno beyond the ships, red, gold, and black clouds rolling and boiling, lightning tearing silently through them. It was beautiful and terrifying, a storm that could swallow both ships in seconds. The grapple was just ahead, and so was the creature. It had seen him. The thing hissed soundlessly in the vacuum, tendrils reaching for him as it crawled along the channel. Docking arm. Its claws scraped the metal in bursts, each movement jerky but fast. Ryan pushed off the hull, floating toward the grapple control unit. His gloves hit the cold metal, and he slammed the emergency cutter into the fused joint. Sparks burst into the void, drifting like fireflies. The creature lunged. Ryan ducked low, letting it overshoot, its claws slashing through empty space. He swung the cutter up in a wide arc, slicing across one of its limbs. Black fluid sprayed into the void, spinning into the storm. The thing didn't scream. It shuddered. And then it came again. Ryan hit the cutter against the second joint. The metal gave a sharp ping as the tension released. The grapple arm began to retract, but too slowly. The nebula's pull was getting stronger, dragging the alien ship toward its heart. If the arm didn't release completely, both ships would go down together. The creature lunged again, catching Ryan's tether in its claws. It yanked hard, pulling him off balance, dragging him toward its tendril-covered face. Ryan's mind flashed with one thought. Humans adapt. Always. He unhooked the tether dot. The sudden release sent him drifting backward, right toward the second. Grapple mount. He slammed into it hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. Ignoring the pain, he jammed the cutter into the last connection point. The grapple arm tore free. The sudden separation sent the alien ship spinning, and Nebula's gravity seizing it like a predator. It was dragged toward the storm's center, vanishing into the red clouds with a silent flash of lightning. The creature didn't make it back to Ryan. It was still, clinging to the arm when the ship was swallowed. Varen's voice exploded in his ear. "We're loose. Get back inside, Captain. Or you're next." Ryan pushed off, drifting toward the silver dawn. Mara's hands caught him as he crossed the airlock threshold. The hatch slammed shut behind him, the hiss of pressure returning almost deafening. The Silver Dawn's engines roared. The ship shuddered. One last time, then broke free of the nebula's grasp, stars returning to view beyond the forward glass dot in the medbay. The alien mother reached out a trembling hand. Ryan took it without hesitation. "Translator, I whispered her words into his ear. "You risked the storm for strangers." Ryan smiled faintly, exhaustion in his eyes. "That's what humans do." Asterisk, the dead of life. The Silver Dawn drifted beyond the nebula's reach, its hull scorched and dented from the storm's pull. The red and gold clouds faded behind them, shrinking into the distance like the closing jaws of some ancient beast. Inside, the crew moved slowly, speaking in low voices, as if afraid the storm could still hear them. Ryan Cole sat in the medbay, the hum of the engines a low comfort beneath his boots. The alien mother lay in the diagnostic cradle, thin oxygen lines feeding her. Her breathing had steadied, but her skin still had that pale, bruised shimmer. The child was curled against her side, eyes closed, but not sleeping. Ryan could tell by the way their small hand gripped her arm. For a while, no one spoke. The kind of silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Heavy with everything they'd seen, done, and survived. Mara appeared in the doorway, a datapad in her hand. "Varen says the hull's holding, but we're down one engine coolant line and the aft sensors are fried. He's patching what he can." Ryan nodded, but his gaze stayed on the mother and child. "And the nebula?" "Nothing's following." "U.S.," Mara said. "If those things survived, they're stuck in there." Ryan didn't answer. Deep down, he knew creatures like that didn't just stop. They waited, they adapted, and maybe, someday, they'd crawl back out of that storm. But that was a problem for another day. That the mother's eyes opened slowly. She studied Ryan the way you'd look at a puzzle you didn't understand, but wanted to, like he was both strange and dangerous, but also the reason she was still breathing. She said something in her language, her voice still weak. The translator took a moment before, answering in a soft tone. "You are not one of us. Yet you risked everything for us." Ryan leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "Where I come from, if someone asks for help, you help. Doesn't matter who they are, or what." The mother blinked, her gaze steady. "Even if it means you die?" "Especially then," Ryan said without hesitation. The child stirred, looking up at him. Their voice was quiet, almost afraid to break the air. "You did not have to come, but you came." Ryan smiled faintly. "Someone once told me humans are stubborn. I guess that's true." The child tilted their head. "Stubborn or brave?" Ryan didn't answer that one. Some things were better left for others to decide. Hours later, when the mother was stable enough to stand, she asked to be taken to the bridge. Ryan helped her, careful not to rush her pace. The child walked close on her other side, never letting go of her hand. When they stepped onto the bridge, The stars stretched out before them in cold, endless beauty. The nebula was far now, just a smear of angry color in the dark. The mother looked out the viewport for a long time before speaking. "My people do not trust humans," the translator whispered for her. "We see you as reckless, dangerous, too willing to break rules." Ryan gave a dry chuckle. "Sounds about right." She turned her gaze to him. "But sometimes rules are cages, and only the dangerous can break them." The child stepped forward, looking at the stars as if seeing them for the first time without fear. "We owe you a life debt," they said. Ryan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." The mother's voice came firm now, stronger than before. "To us, a life debt is not a burden. It is a promise. My people will remember your name." She spoke again, this time without waiting for the translator, her alien words rolling through the bridge in a tone that carried weight. The child translated softly. "Ryan Cole, the one who answered." Varen's voice broke the moment over Combs. "Captain, I've got a long-range ping. It's her people, warship signatures. They're headed our way." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Friendly?" Ryan's jaw worked for a moment. "Guess we're about to find out." The mother touched his arm. "Do not fear. You are under my protection now. They will not harm you." Ryan glanced at Mara, then at the incoming ships on the scanner. "Let's hope they agree with you." As the alien warships closed in, the Silver Dawn floated between them and the nebula, a small, battered human freighter that had done something no treaty could force, and no alien captain had dared. The mother and child stood beside Ryan on the bridge, silent but steady, and deep in the captain's mind. One thought repeated itself like the pulse of a star. Sometimes being human means breaking the rules, and sometimes that's the only reason anyone's left alive to write new ones.